Before time learned how to move forward, it learned how to end. There is a place beyond the final universe, beyond the last star going dark, where even gods do not echo. A silence so complete that it devours meaning itself. And somewhere in that silence, something is waiting, something that has watched every crisis, every reboot, every victory the Justice League ever claimed, and smiled. Tonight, the League will discover that the multiverse does not die in fire or collapse in war. It dies in understanding, and once they learn the truth, there will be no unlearning it. The Watchtower trembles not from an external attack, not from an explosion or invasion, but from information. Streams of impossible data flood every console as Batman stands motionless, eyes locked on a projection that refuses to behave like physics should allow. It isn't a map, it isn't a timeline, it's a negative absence shaped like reality. Superman hears it before anyone else. Not a sound, but a pressure, like the universe holding its breath. His senses stretch outward automatically, scanning galaxies, dimensions, vibrational planes. Everything is still there. Everything is alive, and yet, something is wrong. Wonder Woman feels it too, a chill older than the gods of Olympus, crawling up her spine. The kind of dread spoken of only in forgotten prophecies, sendings without glory, without war, without heroes standing triumphant over the dead. Flash breaks the silence first, forcing a laugh that dies halfway out of his mouth. He says the readings must be wrong. They always are when the multiverse is involved. Speed Force, interference, fifth-dimensional prank, another Tuesday. But Batman doesn't respond, because Batman already knows. He has been chasing this anomaly for weeks. Small, unnoticeable inconsistencies at first. Universes that should have been destroyed still existing. But thither, reboots that didn't fully reset. Timelines that remembered things they shouldn't. Like scars beneath rewritten skin. He finally found the pattern. And the pattern doesn't point to a beginning, it points to an end. Batman activates the central hologram. The League gathers as the image expands, revealing countless universes represented as glowing spheres. At first, it looks normal, an infinite ocean of realities drifting apart, colliding, branching. Then the spheres begin to dim. Not all at once, not dramatically, one by one, quietly. They're not being destroyed, Batman says, his voice low, controlled, almost distant. They're completing. Green Lantern steps forward, ring glowing brighter as it tries and fails to analyze the phenomenon. Completing how? Everything ends eventually. Batman finally turns to face them. No, everything finishes. He changes the display. The dimmed universes don't vanish. They collapse inward, folding into a single point, then disappear into a black structure beyond the multiversal boundary. A place with no designation, no coordinates, no name, except the one Batman gave it, the terminal reality. Silence crashes down harder than any explosion. Martian Manhunter reaches out telepathically, instinctively trying to sense life beyond that void. His eyes widen in something dangerously close to fear. There are thoughts there, Jayon says slowly, but they are not minds. They are conclusions. Superman clenches his fists. You saying something is killing universes? No, Batman replies. I'm saying something is ending them, on purpose. Wonder Woman steps closer to the projection, her voice steady but grave. In the old texts, there is mention of an end beyond Ragnarok, beyond the twilight of the gods. A final horizon where even stories are judged. Flash swallows. Judged by what? Batman doesn't answer immediately. He pulls up the final piece of data, the thing he hoped he was wrong about. A waveform. A signature. One the League has seen before. The same pattern detected at the dawn of the multiverse, and at every supposed final crisis. Anti-Monitor Perpetua. The source wall fractures. Darkest nights. Brightest days. All of them share it. Not the cause. The symptom. These weren't villains, Batman says quietly. They were responses. Immune reactions. Superman's voice drops to a whisper. To what? Batman meets his eyes. To the multiverse reaching its intended conclusion. The room feels smaller, heavier. Green Lantern shakes his head. That's impossible. The multiverse is infinite. Batman's response is immediate. Infinity doesn't mean eternal. Jaron stiffens suddenly, as if struck by a mental shockwave. He gasps, clutching the edge of the console. It's Caesar's, he says. Every light on the watchtower flickers, not an attack, a recognition. For a single, horrifying instant, every member of the Justice League feels it in awareness brushing against them, vast and impersonal, like a cosmic librarian noticing a book out of place. Then it's gone. Superman exhales slowly, his heart pounding harder than it ever has in battle. What is it? Batman's voice is barely audible. The reason stories stop being told. And somewhere beyond everything they have ever protected, the terminal reality shifts, because the Justice League has just learned the truth. And knowledge, at the end of all things, is the most dangerous force of all. The first thing to break is the Speed Force. Barry feels it like a skipped heartbeat one moment. The familiar infinite current hums around him. The next, there's a dead zone. Not emptiness, not damage. A missing destination. Like running toward a road that simply decides not to exist anymore. He stumbles back, breath ragged. I can't see past it, he says. Whenever I try to look ahead, really ahead, it's like the future just stops. Batman is already moving, fingers flying across controls, isolating data streams. That's because the Speed Force doesn't travel through time, he says. It travels through narrative probability. Possibility. Superman turns sharply. Narrative. Batman doesn't look up. Stories. Outcomes. The reason heroes always arrive just in time. The reason hope statistically shouldn't survive, but does. Wonder Woman's eyes narrow. You're saying the universe runs on myth. I'm saying myth is the operating system, Batman replies. And the terminal reality is the shutdown command. The watchtower alarms flare not red, not warning but blue. Analytical alerts. Observations without urgency. As if the station itself is confused, Green Lantern's ring projects a three-dimensional lattice of realities, but now there's something new. Thin fractures spiderwebbing between universes. Not collisions, not invasions. Closures. They're accelerating, Hal says. Whatever rate they were ending at before, it's increasing. Jayon stiffens again, more violently this time. His voice echoes with overlapping tones, as though multiple versions of him are speaking at once. I am receiving. Memories that are not mine. Batman stops typing. From where? From selves. Jayon replies. Other Martian Manhunters? Dead ones? Ones who never joined this league. Ones who never existed long enough to matter. Superman feels something twist in his chest. What are they saying? John swallows. They all reach the same moment. Different lives, different choices, same end. Flash whispers. What end? Jayon closes his eyes. The moment their universe realizes it has already been told, the League falls silent. Batman brings up archival footage, ancient, half-lost records from worlds erased in crises past. He overlays them with newly decoded data from the terminal reality. Patterns align. Every universe doesn't just die, Cliffs concludes. Characters fulfill their symbolic arcs. Heroes inspire their final hope. Villains deliver their ultimate challenge. Even chaos has structure. Wonder Woman's voice is tight. So the multiverse isn't random. No, Batman says. It's curated. Superman steps forward, anger bleeding through his calm. By who? Batman hesitates, not because he doesn't know, because saying it makes it real. By the same force that defines beginnings, he finally says, the same thing that decided there should be something instead of nothing. Green Lantern exhales sharply. You're talking about the source. Not the source, Batman corrects. The reader. The word hangs in the air, wrong and unsettling. The multiverse behaves like a story, because it is one, Batman continues. Every reality is a narrative thread. Every crisis is a dramatic pivot. The terminal reality is where all threads converge, where stories end, because there is nothing left to say. Superman shakes his head. That's insane. Batman meets his gaze. So is an infinite number of universes, all centered around the same handful of people. Flash laughs weakly. Okay, nope, don't like that. Don't like that at all. Wonder Woman grips her sword. If this reader exists, then it can be fought. Batman's expression hardens. No, he can't. You don't fight the one who closes the book. You only matter while the book is open. At that moment, the watchtower receives a transmission. Not a signal, an invitation. Coordinates unfold across the main display, impossible geometry that exists beyond space-time. A path through the bleed, through the source wall, through concepts that have no physical form. Destination, the terminal reality. Sender, undefined. Superman feels it again, that pressure, that awareness, not hostility, curiosity. It knows we're here, he says. Batman nods. It always did, but now we're interesting. Gaon's voice drops to a whisper. Because we are asking the wrong question. Flash frowns. What question is that? Not what ends the multiverse, John says, but what happens when the story refuses to end. Batman stares at the coordinates, jaw clenched. He has contingency plans for gods, for monsters, for himself, but not for irrelevance. If we go there, Hal says quietly, we might confirm that nothing we do actually matters. Superman steps forward, eyes burning with resolve. Or we might prove that it does. He looks around at them, his family, his constant, his impossible team. If the multiverse ends because someone decides it's finished, then they haven't met us yet. The coordinates stabilize. The path opens. And somewhere beyond everything, the terminal reality waits not to destroy the Justice League, but to see how their story ends. The journey doesn't feel like travel. There's no sensation of speed, no tearing of space, no rupture through dimensions. The watchtower simply ceases to be in the multiverse. One moment stars burn outside the windows, the next there is no outside at all. Just white, not light, not emptiness. A page. Superman feels his powers misfire instantly. His strength is still there, but it has no resistance. His senses reach outward and find nothing to measure against. No distance, no sound, no radiation. Even time feels optional. Flash doesn't vibrate. He can't. There is no frequency to sync with. Batman's suit remains operational, but every diagnostic returns the same impossible result. Status, context not found. Wonder Woman stands firm, boots planted on something that isn't ground, but behaves like it understands the concept. Her grip tightens around her sword. This place is shaped by meaning, she says. Not matter? Gaon's form flickers briefly as Martian physiology struggling to define itself. There are no thoughts here, he says, unsettled, only awareness. Ahead of them, the white begins to darken not into black, but into textural depth. Like ink soaking into paper, a horizon forms, and standing at its edge is a figure. Not a god, not a monster, not even a being in the conventional sense. It looks unfinished, humanoid, but shifting between outlines, sometimes tall, sometimes small, sometimes wearing a face that feels uncomfortably familiar. Its eyes are blank spaces, like margins waiting to be filled. When it speaks, it doesn't use sound, it uses understanding. You have reached the final frame. Flash shivers. Oh, I hate this. I really, really hate this. Superman steps forward instinctively. Are you the one ending the multiverse? The figure tilts its head, considering the question, like a poorly worded sentence. I do not end it, it replies. I acknowledge when it has concluded. Batman narrows his eyes. By whose authority? By coherence. The figure gestures, and suddenly the white space fills with images, countless moments from across realities. Superman lifting a car, Batman standing in an alley, Diana crossing blades with gods, Barry running toward impossible odds. Each scene pauses at its most emotionally complete moment. Every arc resolved, every sacrifice paid. You decide when we're done, Superman says, anger bleeding into his voice. The figure turns to him. For a moment, its face resembles Jonathan Kent, then Lois, then Clark himself. Stories decide when they are done. Batman steps in. That's a convenient abstraction. Who created you? Another pause. I am not created. I am the act of reading. The words land like a blow. The multiverse exists. The figure continues, because it is observed, because it is followed, because it means something. When meaning is exhausted, continuation becomes noise. Wonder Woman raises her shield. You would erase hope because it has been told before. Hope is renewable, the figure replies calmly, but forms are not. Flash snaps. So what? We're just reruns to you. The figure turns to him, almost gentle. You are variations on a theme that has reached harmonic completion. Batman's fists clench. Then why invite us here? Because anomalies have emerged. The white space ripples. Images appear, worlds where heroes fail but continue anyway. Universes where Superman never inspires hope, yet people keep fighting. Timelines where Batman dies early, and Gotham refuses to collapse. These should have ended, the figure says. But they didn't. Superman steps closer, defiant. Because people choose to keep going. The figure studies him. Because characters resisted their resolution. Batman freezes. That's us, he realizes. That's the League. We keep interrupting endings. Correct. John's voice is heavy. So what happens now? The figure's outline sharpens slightly, as if the question interests it. Now determine whether resistance creates new meaning, or merely delays silence. Hal raises his ring. And if we refuse to accept your ending, the figure looks almost curious. Then the multiverse enters an unsustainable state. Batman's mind races. Define unsustainable. Narrative collapse. Infinite contradictions. Stories without structure. Existence without coherence. Flash mutters, so, everything breaks. Yes, Superman looks around at his team. Fear flickers through him, but it doesn't take hold. You're wrong, he says. The figure tilts its head again. Cliff Superman gestures to the others. Meaning isn't finite. It changes. People change. Hope evolves. The figure responds immediately. That is statistically improbable. Batman steps forward now, voice sharp. So was us existing in the first place. For the first time, the figure hesitates. Not long, but enough. There's your flaw, Batman continues. You think stories end when patterns repeat, but repetition isn't exhaustion. It's foundation. Wonder Woman adds, the gods told the same stories for millennia. They never lost power. Flash grins nervously. Yeah, turns out people like hearing about the good guys winning. The figure absorbs this, processes it. Then the white space fractures. Not violently, questioningly. For the first time since the multiverse began, the reader is uncertain. And uncertainty is dangerous. Because now the story is doing something it was never supposed to do. It's arguing back. The fracture spreads, not like a crack in glass, but like hesitation. White space folds in on itself, creating layers, footnotes, revisions. The terminal reality is no longer static. It's thinking. The figure reader steps back, its outline destabilizing as the environment reacts to the League's presence. Every step it takes leaves behind echoes of unfinished sentences. This has not occurred before. Batman's eyes widen slightly. Good. That means you're not infallible. The reader turns toward him. Infallibility is unnecessary when outcomes are fixed. Outcomes were fixed. Batman corrects. Past tense. Superman feels it too, now a subtle resistance returning to his muscles, like reality remembering how to push back. He clenches his fist and feels pressure. Wait, possibility. You said anomalies threaten coherence, Superman says. What if coherence was never the point? The reader studies him, its blank eyes filling briefly with images every Superman across every reality. Dying, surviving, failing, inspiring. The constant is you. Exactly, Superman replies. Not the events, the choice. Flash looks around, realization dawning. Wait, so when we keep saving the day, even when it's supposed to end, we're not breaking the story. Gaon finishes the thought. We are expanding it. The terminal reality trembles. New space forms at the edge of Skulla, bleeding into the white. Incomplete worlds. Half-written futures. The reader recoils slightly. Expansion without conclusion leads to entropy. Batman steps closer, voice low and controlled. So does premature closure. The reader raises a hand, and suddenly each member of the League is isolated, suspended in individual narrative pockets. Superman finds himself back in Smallville, not the real one. A distilled memory. Jonathan Kent stands by the fence, smiling softly. You can rest now, Jonathan says. You've done enough. For a moment, just a moment, Superman feels the temptation, the relief of an ending, of closure. Then he remembers Lois, Earth, every tomorrow not yet written. He steps past the illusion, shattering it. Wonder Woman faces a vision of the Mysara at eternal peace. No wars, no gods, no need for a warrior. A life where she never has to fight again. She lowers her sword, then lifts it again. Peace without choice is surrender, she says. Then the vision dissolves. Batman stands in an alley in Crime Alley, his parents alive, smiling. The night never happened. This is the ending you want. The reader's voice echoes. A healed origin. Batman stares at his father's face, then turns away. If this never happened, he says. I wouldn't exist. And neither would the people I saved. The alley collapses. Flash is shown a future where he stops running, where time no longer needs him, where he's finally still. He laughs, shaking his head. Yeah, not my thing. He runs. The speed force ignites not fully, but enough. A spark of infinite motion burns through the terminal reality, leaving streaks of red and gold across the white. Jayan is confronted with Mars restored, his people alive, but empty. Soulless echoes repeating traditions without passion. Flash frowns. It doesn't sound ominous. Batman's jaw tightens. It is. The projection sharpens. They see worlds where heroes are choosing to step aside, retiring, passing the mantle, or refusing it entirely. This is the first ripple, Batman says, when stories aren't forced to end. Characters eventually ask whether they should continue. Superman looks down at his hands. How long? He asks softly, before someone decides the world doesn't need us anymore. As if in answer, Jayan stiffens. I am sensing something, he says. A presence. The watchtower darkens. Not from outside, from within. A voice echoes not the readers, not cosmic, human. He wanted stories without endings. It says, be careful what you wished for. A figure steps out of the shadows of the watchtower itself, someone who should not exist anymore. Someone whose story already ended. Batman's breath catches. Impossible, he whispers. The figure smiles sadly. Not anymore. The figure steps fully into the light. He is older, tired, scarred in ways Batman recognizes immediately, not physical, but narrative. This is a man who has lived past his ending. It's Bruce Wayne. Not this Bruce. A version who should have stopped existing when his universe concluded. Wonder Woman reaches for her sword. Superman steps forward instinctively, shielding the others. You're not real, Flash says, voice shaking. You died in Final Crisis. The other Bruce nods. I did, properly, heroically, with closure. Batman stares at him, eyes locked, searching for deception, for paradox, for any flaw he can exploit. Then, what are you now? Batman asks. The older Bruce exhales slowly. Left over. The word hits harder than any punch. I was supposed to end, the other Bruce continues. My world did, but when you broke the terminal reality, Nye didn't dissolve. I kept going. Guyon's eyes widened. You are an unresolved narrative. The older Bruce gives a humorless smile. Exactly. Superman's voice is careful. Why come here? Because you need to understand the cost, the older Bruce says. You didn't just free the multiverse. You stranded it. Batman steps closer, fists clenched. Explain. In my universe, the older Bruce says, there was peace at the end. Gotham healed. Crime ended not because I won, but because people moved on. He looks directly at Batman. And then the ending vanished. The watchtower fills with images, his world unraveling, not violently, but directionlessly. People losing purpose. History stretching without arc. Without an ending. The older Bruce continues. People stopped knowing when to let go. Superman feels a nod tighten in his chest. So you came to warn us, Wonder Woman says. No, the older Bruce replies softly. I came because something else followed me. The lights flicker again. A pressure builds, not vast like the reader, not cold and cosmic, personal, intimate. From the shadows behind the older Bruce, something begins to form, figures overlapping, phasing through one another. Heroes, villains, civilians, all unfinished, all refusing to fade. We call ourselves the Continuance, the older Bruce says. We are stories that should have ended, and didn't. Batman's mind races. You're destabilizing reality. No, the older Bruce says. Reality is destabilizing us. The figures step forward. A Joker who never got his final joke. A Superman who lost everyone but never died. A Flash trapped between seconds. Flash staggers back. That's not fair. That's not an ending. The older Bruce finishes. Superman's voice hardens. You don't belong here? Neither do you. The Continuance replies in overlapping voices. Wonder Woman raises her shield. If you threaten the living, we don't threaten. They interrupt. We persist. Batman finally understands. This is the new danger. Not annihilation. Not conquest. Narrative overflow. You broke the filter, Batman says. The reader prevented this. Yes, The older Bruce agrees. And now someone has to decide what deserves to continue. Superman's eyes widen. That's not your call. The older Bruce meets his gaze. Then whose is it now? Silence. Because no one has an answer. The continuance steps closer. We don't want to destroy the multiverse, they say. We want a place to finish. Batman feels something cold settle in his gut. And if the multiverse can't contain you, the older Bruce's voice is barely audible, then it will break. Superman clenches his fists. The Justice League saves stories from ending. Now they must decide which ones are allowed to live, and which ones must finally be let go. The Watchtower feels smaller than it ever has before. Not physically, structurally, it's unchanged, but philosophically. It was built to watch over existence, not to judge it. Now the Justice League stands at the center of a question no force should ever have to answer. Who deserves an ending? The continuance spreads out across the chamber. Their forms unstable, overlapping, flickering between moments that never resolved. Each one radiates a quiet desperation, not malice, not rage, but need. We are not villains, the overlapping voices say. We are consequences. Superman steps forward, his voice steady but heavy. You're asking us to choose who gets to exist. The older Bruce nods. That choice used to be automatic, impersonal, clean. You removed it. Batman's jaw tightens. Don't put this on us. You followed us here, and you opened the door, the older Bruce replies. We're simply walking through. Flash looks from face to face, panic barely contained. Okay, time out literally. Anything else sounds better than this. Can't the reader just fix it? Kion shakes his head slowly. The reader's no longer an arbiter. It is an observer now. Meaning? Hal asks. Meaning it will watch us fail, Jayon answers. One of the figures in the continuance steps forward, a woman in a torn Green Lantern uniform. Her ring cracked, but still faintly glowing. In my universe, she says quietly, I died saving my sector. I was ready. Then the ending vanished. Now my people are frozen in grief that never resolves. Another figure steps forward, a child, no older than 10. My world ended before I could grow up, he says. I don't want to fade. I don't want to be nothing. Superman's heart sinks. These aren't monsters. They're unfinished lives. Batman's mind works furiously, but logic offers no clean solution. If we let all of you remain, he says, reality destabilizes. And if you erase us, the Lantern Woman asks, that's murder. Wonder Woman closes her eyes briefly. In ancient wars, there were fates worse than death. Endless wandering was one of them. The older Bruce watches them all. This is what you traded certainty for. Superman turns to Batman. There has to be another way. Batman doesn't answer immediately, because there is one, and he hates it. The reader didn't end stories randomly, Batman says slowly. It ended them when they stopped generating meaning. The continuance stiffens. So we redefine meaning, Superman says. No, Batman replies. We completed. Flash stares at him. Bats, I don't like that tone. Batman looks directly at the older Bruce. You said you came because your ending was taken from you. Yes. What was your ending? Batman asks. The older Bruce closes his eyes. Letting go. Batman nods once. Then that's the key. Superman's eyes widen. You're not saying I am, Batman says. Endings can't be imposed anymore. They have to be chosen. The continuance murmurs uneasily. You want us to choose to die, one voice says. No, Wonder Woman says gently. To choose completion. Jayon steps forward, his voice resonating with empathy. A story ends when its truth has been lived. Silence falls. The older Bruce looks at Batman really, looks at him, and understands. You're asking me to finish my story, he says. Batman meets his gaze. I'm asking you to decide how. The older Bruce exhales slowly. For the first time since he arrived, his posture straightens not with tension, but with peace. I never let go, he admits. I thought survival meant continuation. He looks at the continuance. But maybe survival is meaning. One by one, some of the figures begin to fade, not violently, not erased, resolved. A Joker laughs softly, then stops. A Flash exhales, and stills. But not all of them follow. Some cling harder. We're not ready, they say. We still have more to say. Reality shudders again. Batman's voice is grim. Then this isn't over. Superman looks at the remaining figures, at the future still demanding space. Then we help them finish, he says. One story at a time. The watchtower stabilizes barely. The multiverse doesn't scream, but it waits, because the Justice League has just accepted a new role. Not just heroes, not just saviors, but custodians of endings. And the hardest chapters are still unwritten. The work begins immediately, not with battles, not with cosmic speeches, with listening. The watchtower becomes something it was never designed to buy: a crossroads, a hospice, a final campfire at the edge of existence. The remaining members of the continuance are given space, not containment. Rooms form around them as needed, shaped by memory and meaning rather than steel. Batman watches the system strain as reality compensates. This is not scalable. He knows it. But knowing doesn't make it optional. Superman sits with a man who was once a hero on a world that ended in fire. The man doesn't want to fight. He wants to remember his wife's face without the world burning behind it. So Superman listens. Wonder Woman trains with an unfinished Amazon who never chose peace or war before her timeline collapsed. They spar not to win but to decide who she was meant to be. Flash runs messages not through time, but between moments, helping people relive choices they never finished making. Some choose to continue, some choose to rest. Giant does the hardest work of all. He enters minds that never resolved grief, never reached acceptance. He does not push. He walks beside them until they reach their own truth. Hal guards the perimeter not against invasion, but against overflow. His ring burns brighter than ever, fueled not by certainty, but by conviction renewed again and again. And Batman prepares because he sees what the others don't. Patterns. The multiverse is adapting, but not peacefully. Every unresolved story allowed to continue increases variance. Somewhere out there, entire universes are learning the wrong lesson. That endings are optional. That consequences can be delayed forever. That meaning doesn't require sacrifice. And those worlds are rotting. The alert comes quietly, almost politely. A universe has begun to loop. Not time travel, not reset. Refusal. The same civilization reaching the same downfall. And rewinding collectively, consciously, to avoid it, over and over. Each cycle more hollow than the last. Superman arrives first. He floats above a city, frozen mid-collapse. People staring at the sky, waiting for permission to move. You don't have to do this, he tells them. A voice answers from everywhere at once. We can't let it end. Superman's chest tightens. Endings don't mean failure, they mean loss. Batman arrives behind him. And refusing them means stagnation. Batman says, "You're not living, you're preserving fear." The world resists them. Reality bends inward, protecting its loop like a scar. The reader watches, not interfering, evaluating. Superman turns to Batman. "We can't force them." "No," Batman agrees, "but we can show them." He steps forward and removes his cowl. Bruce Wayne stands before the looping world. "I built my life on refusing an ending," he says. "It nearly destroyed me." The loop trembles. Bruce continues, voice raw. "The night my parents died was the end of one story. I tried to make it last forever. All it did was spread the pain. The people listen. Some cry, some step forward. The loop slows. A child asks, if we let it end, what comes next?" Bruce looks at Superman. Superman answers softly, "Something new." The loop releases. The universe moves forward, not perfectly, but honestly. As they leave, Batman feels ether multiverse shifting again. Not breaking, learning. The reader's presence brushes against them. No longer cold. Observation logged. Batman exhales slowly. This can work, but it won't be easy. And then the final warning arrives. Not from the watchtower, not from the reader, from the multiverse itself. A convergence far greater than before. Countless universes where heroes are choosing not just to end, but to erase the concept of heroism entirely. Not out of despair, out of philosophy. Batman stares at the projection. "This," he says quietly, "is the real test." Superman joins him, eyes steady. "Then we face it," he says, "like we always do." Because the end of the multiverse was never about destruction, it was about choice. And now, everyone has one. The convergence comes fast. Not like a storm, not like an invasion, but like every unresolved decision in the multiverse, suddenly demanding attention. Worlds that were stable begin to ripple. Civilizations that once chose continuity now teeter between extinction and reinvention. The watchtower alarms flare not, warnings of attack, but cries of imbalance. Superman hovers above the heart of the convergence, scanning impossibly, feeling the weight of billions of lives suspended in indecision. "This isn't just one world," he says. "It's all of them." Batman's fingers fly over the controls, but no data readout can fully capture the scale. The multiverse is aware of us, of all choices made and unmade, and it's testing whether we can manage it. Wonder Woman grips her sword tightly, feeling the pulse of endless worlds. It is asking a question, she says, and the answer will define everything. Giant's eyes flicker with psychic insight. "Not just the multiverse," he whispers, "reality itself. Every story, every ending, every beginning, all are being measured." Flash bounces in place, jittery so. "What, we supposed to give the right answer? Or just not screw it up?" Batman's gaze never wavers from the central display. There is no right answer, only engagement. Only responsibility. From the rippling horizon of converging worlds, figures begin to emerge. Not heroes this time, not villains, neither entities that should never exist, how Diaz made manifest. Abstract fears, philosophical concepts, the very essence of consequences. The multiverse itself takes shape before them, forming shadows of thought, swirling currents of possibility, and a voice that is not a voice, but all thought compressed into one. Will you shepherd your worlds, or let them dissolve? Superman clenches his fists. We don't abandon them, not while there's still life to protect. Batman steps closer. We don't dictate their stories, we ensure they complete them. The converging figures surge, testing boundaries, probing limits, forcing the League to act not with brute strength, but with choices. Each decision the League makes resonates outward, saving a collapsing city, helping a civilization accept loss, allowing a world to fail gracefully. Every choice strengthens stability, every hesitation allows decay. Wonder Woman strikes not to kill, but to guide. Her sword shapes the path of worlds, redirecting conflict into understanding. Flash moves through every permutation of possible failure, nudging outcomes toward coherence. Guion enters the minds of struggling civilizations, teaching them how to accept both triumph and tragedy. Kal extends his ring across galaxies, creating a lattice of stabilized possibility. Batman stands at the center, orchestrating, calculating, weighing infinite consequences, ensuring the League's interventions ripple in harmony. The multiverse pauses for a single, breathtaking moment. Every universe holds its breath. And then the convergence resolves, not perfectly, not without loss, but with meaning restored. The remaining members of the continuance gather, some choosing resolution, others finally accepting completion. The threat of narrative overflow recedes, leaving the multiverse intact but forever changed. Superman exhales, looking across the infinite expanse. It's over. Batman shakes his head. Not over. Different now. Responsibility is heavier than it's ever been. Every choice we make from here matters more than ever. Wonder Woman steps beside them, sword lowered. But we did it. We survived the end without allowing annihilation. Flash grins, exhausted, and I still get to run. That's got to count for something. Gion looks out into the multiverse, solemn. We have safeguarded possibility itself, but the test will return. Stories do not end easily. The watchtower stabilizes systems, normalizing. Stars blaze outside once again. Every universe, while scarred and forever altered by the events of the terminal reality, remains alive, resilient, open, unpredictable. Superman turns to the League. The end of the multiverse was never about victory. It was about courage. The courage to choose, to act, and to let the story continue. Batman nods. We are no longer just defenders of Earth, or even the multiverse. We are custodians of endings, and shepherds of possibility. Wonder Woman lifts her sword one last time. Sunlighter, the cosmic equivalent, catching the edge. Then let us walk forward, together. The League stands united at the watchtower, watching infinite worlds stretch before them. The multiverse is alive, aware, and free, and somewhere beyond every reality, the reader watches too not to end, but to witness. For the first time, the end does not frighten anyone. It waits. And the Justice League moves forward, knowing that endings are not the conclusion of heroism, but the beginning of true responsibility. The multiverse is safe for now, but its stories will never be the same again. The end is not final. It is earned. The Justice League has learned the true end of the multiverse, and it is a beginning. The Justice League stood on the watchtower, gazing out across a multiverse that had survived its reckoning. Billions of worlds stretched infinitely in every direction, each one fragile, each one alive, each one a story still being written. The terminal reality, the reader, and the continuing soul, once symbols of inevitable endings, had been confronted not with force, but with courage, wisdom, and choice. Superman realized that true heroism is not in winning every battle or surviving every crisis. It is in responsibility, the willingness to act, even when outcomes are uncertain, the strength to guide rather than dictate, the courage to let life itself decide its path. Batman understood that protection is no longer just about stopping villains. It is about safeguarding meaning, ensuring that stories, no matter how difficult, are allowed to reach their rightful conclusions. Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter grasps at every life. Every decision, every act of hope, ripples outward, shaping realities far beyond their comprehension. The multiverse had revealed its ultimate truth. Endings are not arbitrary, not dictated by fate or cosmic entities. They belong to those who live, who choose, who bear the weight of consequence. And though the Justice League would face endless tests and challenges in this new era, they had proven that meaning could survive uncertainty, and hope could endure even in the face of oblivion. In the quiet aftermath, the League knew one thing clearly. The multiverse would continue, not because it was forced to, not because it was predestined, but because there were heroes willing to fight for its story, to shepherd its endings, and to ensure that every chapter, no matter how perilous, was earned. And in that realization, the Justice League discovered the most profound truth of all: the end is never final. It is a responsibility, a choice, and above all, a beginning. The multiverse waits, and the League will always be ready.